guys said about him, and I'm sure we'll be talking about him for years and decades to come.
Just curious if you guys had a desire to bring Tom back the coming season.
Yeah, I think that's, a lot of water under the bridge.
It didn't surprise you at all, him leaving?
Again, I think we've covered all that.
All right, so even that was further than I thought we'd get with him. Anyway, Dominique, here's a question. Thinking of Brady and the Patriots, Sneaky Hembo has this. Which NFL team has used the fewest starting quarterbacks since 2001? What's the answer?
Chargers.
Wow, he got it right that fast. That's exactly right. He was obviously
they went from Breeze to Rivers, and they both were really healthy, so I figured that was it.
They have used 3 starting quarterbacks since that time. Rivers, Breeze, and Doug Flutie is the other. The Patriots have used 5 quarterbacks during that time. Wow, Neek with no preamble. He just threw the answer out there fast. Meanwhile, back to Belichick, the Patriots coach Bill Belichick addressing this year's quarterback class.
There are always a variety of things you have to try to put together and look at, but certainly there's a lot of interesting players and guys that have really good arms, can really throw the ball, and there's some very athletic players and players that have won a lot of games and, have shown their competitiveness and instinctiveness. So it's a good, interesting group, and probably one that has decent depth to it.
All right, so those were the comments on this year's quarterbacks from Bill Belichick, and you heard Mel Kiper saying earlier, he expects the Patriots to consider going quarterback in the second round. Why are you laughing, Ryan Clark?
Because he don't say nothing, bro. Like, he don't say, that man said, he said the quarterbacks got a lot of good arms. They could throw the football. Well, I hope so. They play stinking quarterback. Bro, dude doesn't give you anything. Bill Belichick, man, is just going to be him. You got to love him for it. The dude's like talking about Tom Brady, like, yeah, we're talking about him for decades to come. I just love the fact that Bill Belichick goes about his work. And what this says to me, though, is he hasn't made his last move at the position. We can think whatever we want. And right now, people are going to say the Buffalo Bills have a chance because Tom Brady's gone and it's Jarrett Stidham. He has another move for that position, and we're all just waiting for him to make it.
Should that move, Dominique, be in this year's draft? Should he be drafting a rookie quarterback?
I don't think so. Like, I think that we've talked about this before. The 2 guys that I like in this draft won't be there for them, and I can't imagine Bill Belichick packaging picks to move up. And I guess if you're high on Herbert, that's another guy, but he won't be there into the time when the Patriots have a pick. The guy that they could potentially get is Jordan Love, and I think that they feel confident, at least what I'm hearing, they feel confident in Stidham, so they need to give it a chance with Stidham unless for some reason the confidence that they're exuding is phony. So I think they need to go ahead and give it a try with Stidham, and the draft right now is not the spot for them. Or go after one of these free agent quarterbacks or try to trade for somebody who may not be long for the city they're in. I'm looking at you, Cincinnati.
That's the one. So Andy Dalton, that's what I was thinking here. They already have a young quarterback in Jarrett Stidham that they're going to look to develop and bring along. And they have sort of a coach in the quarterback's room, if you will, in Brian Hoyer. But there are veteran quarterbacks out there, Ryan, and we know who they are. Jameis Winston is available. Cam Newton is available. Maybe Andy Dalton becomes available. To me, it would make more sense if I'm Belichick to go in that direction.
I think that's where Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots will go. If you look at a guy like Cam Newton, Jameis Winston, they're going to see the market kind of dry up until after this draft, or they have seen that already happen, and they've decided to be patient. And if you're Bill Belichick, you can get one of these guys for the low, honestly. You can try to get them off of the clearance rack because they will need somewhere to play. And I think guys like that, veteran guys, will be looking for an opportunity to win. And when you look at the last 2 decades, there's been no better opportunity than playing for Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. And so to me, you go through the draft, you try to build your team as much as possible, and then you see which one of these veteran free agent quarterbacks will be available, and that should be your starter week 1 for the 2020 season.
I agree. If I'm New England, I think that's the direction that I would be looking because, as you pointed out before, Neek, they will not have a shot at one of the top 2 quarterbacks in this draft. Guys, stick around. We'll get back to you, but I want to bring Laura in here, Laura Rutledge, who's with us, of course. And let's talk about those top two quarterbacks in this year's draft. We're looking at Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa. We've been talking about them forever, and it feels as though they have superstar written all over them. But we've seen that script before.
We absolutely have. And Greeny, every single draft has a certain level of risk associated with it, of course. But those two quarterbacks in 2015, whose stories have always been intertwined, almost look like a cautionary tale.
If you're in the business of taking risks, draft a quarterback. No, seriously. It's the riskiest position to draft. Only 40% of first-round quarterbacks sign a second contract with their drafted team. In 2015, the debate of Jameis Winston versus Marcus Mariota was endless.
Who's a better athlete? Better athlete.
Mariota. Jameis Winston is clearly the better prospect.
What wasn't up for debate, a quarterback was going number 1 overall.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Jameis Winston.
The Bucs had the top pick and invested in Winston's traditional NFL quarterback skill set, looking past his turnover troubles in college. The Titans were right behind them, falling in love with Mariota's exceptional athleticism. So what happened? Well, even Bruce Arians' quarterback whispering wasn't loud enough for Jameis, who finished 2019 with a career-high 30 interceptions. He produced a league-high 111 turnovers over the last 5 seasons.
I gotta get better. I just gotta fix it.
But here's the head-scratcher. Jameis also finished last year with over 5,000 yards. Watching him in Tampa was like taking a trip down the road to Disney World and hopping on Space Mountain. Mediocrity and inconsistency defined Mariota's time in Tennessee.
To me, right now, he's a bust. He really is.
There was 2017 and a postseason win, the team's first in 14 years, but 6 games into last season, Mariota was benched.
It's solely on my shoulders. I had an opportunity to play, and I didn't make the most of it.
Maybe the best answer for these former first-rounders is a change of scenery and someone who believes in them. It seems Mariota will have that as a Raider with John Gruden.
He's a lot like a young Russell Wilson. If you don't like Marcus Mariota, you don't like human beings.
Opportunity to prove the reward can be greater than the risk.
So here's the number that really sticks out to me, Greeny, when you look at this and how it could relate to this draft. Only 40% of first-round quarterbacks sign a second deal with their drafted team. That's crazy, and to me encapsulates what these teams are dealing with in trying to find success with these quarterbacks.
And it's lower than most other positions. I saw that number this morning, and it boggles my mind as well. And most other positions are actually a better bet. So I've got Mel back with us here. So, Mel, let's talk about that. I mean, you and I were talking back then 5 years ago. I remember John Gruden was working with us then. He was completely in love with Mariota, so I'm not surprised that he's got him there. But how do those two guys, who seemed like surefire bets, how do they both wind up not working out on the teams that draft them?
I don't think the book's closed on either one of them. I think there's still maybe chapters to be written. But I think in Jameis Winston's case, you think about another year with Bruce Arians, what I thought made a difference. We're not going to have a chance to see that with Tom Brady stepping in. He did throw for a lot of yards, did throw 33 touchdowns. The interceptions left you scratching your head. And so I'm sure Bruce Arians said, I've pounded him on the table week after week. I said, don't do this. And he kept doing it up until the end of the year. So I'm sure that was frustrating. But I would have loved to have seen another year in that same system. For Mariota, just didn't win enough. 29 and 32. He was up at 69% 2 years ago, then down to 59%. Maybe that it factor was lacking, that passion. I don't know what you want to call it. Tannehill gave him a spark. Now, ironically, Mariota's trying to flip the script. He's going out to the Raiders, trying to do to Derek Carr what Ryan Tannehill did exactly to him this past year. We'll see where Jameis Winston lands. But I really believe that for these quarterbacks, Greeny, the book's still open. And hopefully for them, like I said, they're going to try to carve a niche and create another chapter or two before their careers are over.
And to be clear, while you moved Justin Herbert ahead of Tua in your mock draft, you still project Tua higher. And your big board, Tua is still higher. So give me a comparison.
Burrow, again, Tua has a higher rating. Yes.
Yeah, Tua has a higher rating. You like him better. For that's the Mel, not what you're projecting, but what you like.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me the comparison: Jameis and Mariota versus Burrow Tua. Which is the better? Which is the better duo in terms of the projection?
Well, you're going to say Burrow and Tua now, Greeny, especially with Tua, having the injury complicates matters. Burrow had a year like no other. You would hope that Burrow and Tua turn out better. But as I said, Greeny, we'll see what happens. These careers for Winston and Mariota are not over yet.
And Laura, let's talk about Tua for a moment here, because you heard the beginning of the show in Mel's latest mock draft. He has moved Justin Herbert ahead because there are teams that just can't get past the injury concern. What are you hearing from the people around Tua as we're now 9 days away?
Well, look, first of all, I've heard some of the same things that Mel has heard about the fact that there are teams and every team looks at risk a different way. And so even though the Dolphins have been a team that I know have asked probably the most questions about Tua, that really may mean that they're just not comfortable with the risk that they would have to take him based on the long-term durability concerns. But even then, we're looking at Tua potentially falling to that 6th pick or maybe beyond that. Either way, what Tua continues to say is that he's just going to be thrilled to go somewhere. This is truly how he feels about this, and I think speaks to his competitive fire that probably is not getting enough attention. He is a guy that no matter where he ends up is ready to compete and go in and contribute as soon as he possibly can. I personally think that being in LA might be a really good fit for him if that's how it ends up playing out. He's a guy that obviously would be closer to his original home. Of course, his family's now in Alabama, but would be closer to his original home there in California, and I think would be a great fit with that Chargers team. So who knows how it'll all play out, but they're very comfortable with what they've put on tape from the pro day and how he feels physically right now.